Welcome to Unbreakable You. I'm Dr. Leif Smith. Today's topic, why you can't and shouldn't trust yourself. Why can't we trust ourselves? I'll give you one good reason. Your brain is hardwired to be negative. That's right. Your brain is hardwired since the dawn of man to overpredict pain, to overpredict negative events in your life. And most of us walk around and we have no clue that that's what's going on in our brain. What I'm talking about here is the evolution of our brain. From caveman times to now, it hasn't changed much. There is this mechanism in your brain, and you need to understand it, that will overpredict pain. It will overpredict negativity, overpredict negative consequences in your life. And this is the voice that you hear the loudest. This is the voice that's always telling you things, such as, you're never good enough. You won't get the job. You're too fat. You're too skinny. You're too dumb. That won't work. Don't try it out. Don't go for it. Don't take a risk. Be careful. Be scared. Okay? That's what the brain is teaching us. And that's the autopilot. That's the autopilot mechanism in our brain. And yet we walk around every day listening to that voice in our head that's telling us we're not good enough. We act as if this is the voice of God. It's not. It's this hardwired mechanism in your brain. Because in caveman times, this was adaptive. It was adaptive to look at everybody as an enemy. It was adaptive to be negative. It was adaptive to overpredict pain when you hear a sound in the bushes. That kept us alive way back when. We are not in danger anymore. We are not facing threats on a daily basis like we used to. But yet the mechanism in our brain still works the same. In fact, it's even louder because we don't stop it. We don't check it. So this voice gets louder and louder, and we assume that the loudest voice is the most correct voice in our head. And that's absolutely not true. That's why you cannot trust yourself. That's why you cannot trust those thoughts that run through your brain every single day. So what are we supposed to do about it when our brain is hardwired to be negative like this? I have 3 thoughts on that. First of all, here's one thing you can do. Learn to ignore that voice. That's right. Ignore that voice. When that voice tells you you're not good enough, ignore it. When that voice tells you not to take a risk, depending on the risk, of course, ignore it. When that voice tells you you're too skinny, you're too fat, you shouldn't go out in those pants, your abs are too hairy, your butt's too big, okay? When that voice tells you that, ignore it. Just like you would a heckler. When I'm working with top athletes and we talk about this negative voice in our head, we talk about how ridiculous it would be to respond to a heckler. You don't respond to hecklers. You ignore them. And then next time you don't invite them back. So that's the first thing you can do, is ignore that voice. Every time it pops up, ignore it. Move on. Second thing you can do is dispute it. How do we do that? Dispute it with experience. Dispute it with evidence. So when that voice tells you you're not good enough, the counter thought to that can be, of course I am good enough. And here's why. When it tells you you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too dumb, dispute it with evidence. Dispute it with rationality. This is like throwing water on a fire. The more you dispute it, or the more you ignore it, the less power that negativity has over you. It's very important. So we can ignore it, we can dispute it, and then we can change it. So the third thing is, once we get good at ignoring or disputing, change the way you think. When that voice says, you're not good enough, the counter response should be, of course I'm good enough. Here's why. And you know what? I'm going to kick some butt today. I'm going to go for it. Why not me? Why not me? Everyone else gets it. Everyone else can have a chance. Why not me? So we start changing that to a positive thing, to positive self-talk. Very, very important. And those are 3 ways that you can combat this negative voice in your head on your way to becoming unbreakable. Very important, very useful. And so the next step is to use these techniques starting right now. If you want to establish new habits, you have to break the pattern. You have to break your old habits. Let's do that on our way to becoming unbreakable. We're going to establish brand new habits in terms of how we talk to ourselves, in terms of what we believe about ourselves. Very important, very powerful. You start stringing 1 day together, 2 days together, a week together, a month together. What do you know? You have new habits. I'm Dr. Leif Smith. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you next time.